Utter confusion here. I don't know whether or not the person who fired the shots has been apprehended or not. Pierre Salinger just went by me. He also seems to be in a state of confusion. Pierre Salinger was not here at the scene a few moments ago when it occurred. I was standing in the back of the auditorium, and there was a great shout from the crowd, as you probably saw. And the rumor went through the crowd that the senator had been shot. No one believed it. I raced through the crowd to check that rumor, and yes, indeed, that's what had happened. It's an unbelievable sight. A senator who a moment ago just stood in triumph, giving his thanks to the people who worked so hard for his apparent victory here in California, and then came down in the great rush, people congratulating him, moved through the back door, the anteroom just off the podium, and there apparently someone, Lord knows who, fired the shots. I have no word yet on the senator's condition. There seems to be, as I said earlier, no question at all that while he was here and when he was taken out, the senator was alive. His face was calm. He did not grimace with pain. He maintained a composure throughout.
New York. This is Howard Smith in New York. Are we through yet? This is Howard Smith in New York. While we're showing you what's going on in the ballroom, let me tell you a report as I hear it on my earphone from ABC correspondent Bob Clark. ABC correspondent Clark says that 3 men were shot. Robert Kennedy was lying. He was seriously bleeding. He was, his eyes were open. He appeared to be licking his lips. Clark had the impression that Kennedy was not mortally wounded. It is thought that somebody was caught, somebody was apprehended and arrested. Bob, can you tell me more, and I'll relay it right into this microphone. He was in the kitchen. He was in the kitchen of the ballroom. And he was leaving the side door when the shot occurred. Did the shot come from the crowd in the ballroom?
Well, his heart was beating.
Came from the kitchen, from part of the kitchen. There had been a kind of a breakdown of discipline due to the excitement over the senator passing through the kitchen, so people were allowed to come in and out at will. A CBS broadcaster said that Kennedy was shot in the head as he left the platform. We have a report that Kennedy was shot in the hip. Bob, can you tell which of those is so, or if both are? His head and the upper part of his body was splattered with blood, so there may have been more than one wound, one high on his body, and possibly his head. Kennedy's only bodyguard, a former FBI man, was with him. Go ahead. There was expression in his face, though he was obviously in pain. It was not contorted, and he was not unconscious. An Associated Press reporter says he saw blood gush from the senator's face. Can you tell us any more, Bob Clark, in Los Angeles? All right, call us as soon as you can again, and thank you.
Well, the Associated Press story reported that Senator Kennedy's blood was streaming over his face, that his eyes were open but unseeing. Associated Press reporter Bob Thomas saw blood gush from the senator's face, and the AP also reports that the senator's assailant as yet unidentified, was being held a few feet away by a half dozen of the Kennedy supporters. Now, we've not yet had a picture of this man being held in custody, and as I say, we have not yet no idea of the identity of the gunman who attempted to shoot down the senator in this moment of political triumph. It is another one of those tragedies in the long history of the Kennedy family. Remember that brother Joe was killed in the war, that sister Kathleen was killed in an airplane crash after the war, that John F. Kennedy himself, the president, was assassinated in Dallas, that Teddy Kennedy was very nearly killed in an airplane crash in Massachusetts, and now Robert Kennedy, seeking the presidency in his own right, has been shot down as he claimed triumph in this, the most important primary of the 1968 election. If the senator survives, this is, of course, bound to have political repercussions, and I will now introduce David Jane, who's in California. Come in, Dave.
Kennedy left the stage, and we were all following him to the rear of the stage, where he was headed to the back stairs and then down to the victory celebration party. In the immediate crush, Kennedy and his aides were probably 2 or 3 men in front of me. Bill Wiesel, an ABC AD, was immediately in front, and as we were crushed along in the pack, all of a sudden I sounded what seemed just like 4 or 5 firecrackers. I dove for the ground, and I saw Kennedy fall in front of me, and then I saw Bill Wiesel lying beside me with the blood coming out from his abdomen and his rear. The doctor says that the wounds are superficial for Billy, and he has been taken off to the hospital. As to how the others are at this time, I don't know. This is Dave Jane in the basement of the Ambassador.
We'll repeat that news. Senator Robert Kennedy was shot several times in the kitchen of the ballroom of the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles, and 2 other people were wounded likewise. We don't know how seriously Kennedy's been wounded, but Bill Lawrence has detail to that.
Well, the United Press reports from California, Howard, that Kennedy's brother-in-law, Stephen Smith, who's been very active in the management of the campaign, was also reported to have been shot. The United Press adds the information that the gunman was captured by Rayford Johnson, the former Olympic decathlon champion, and the Kennedy aide that we saw on the camera only a few moments ago, and whom you introduced as the senator was making his way to the ballroom as his kind of body holder. A very alarming and tragic development. We still don't know the story. We don't know how serious this illness, this gunshot or a series of gunshot wounds may be, and I suppose that our reporters, some of them are on their way now to the hospital, where perhaps we can get medical bulletins a bit later.
So far, according to reports, 4 people were injured in those shots. Bill Wiesel, an ABC director who was working on the program we were giving on the California elections, an official of the United Automobile Workers was shot, and Stephen Smith, the brother-in-law of Senator Robert Kennedy, was shot, and the senator himself. We don't know how seriously, but we've heard reports that there was blood coming from his head, but it's very hard to tell. When there is one wound that causes a great deal of blood, it can spread over many places. We now have Dave Jane, who just reported to you, and we would like to question him if we can. Dave Jane, can you come in, please?
I hear you, Howard.
Dave, where were you? Were you in the kitchen when this happened?
I am in the kitchen in the basement of the Ambassador, the floor above the basement, in the kitchen area where the shots were fired, just about 6 or 7 feet behind me.
Did you have any impression about how serious it was? It must have been pretty serious to floor him.
Howard, would you repeat that, please?
It must have been quite serious if it was serious enough to floor the senator. He fell down on the floor in front of you, you said?
Yes. And the next thing I knew that the senator would be taken care of because his entourage was there. And Bill Wiesel fell right by side of me, and I was taking care of him.
Yeah. Now, we have a report that he was hit in the hip, and someone else reported blood on his face, but his eyes were open. Do you know whether he was hit anywhere else? Do you know whether he was hit anywhere else but on the hip?
Was the question where was Billy hit?
No, Senator Kennedy.
We got an ambulance waiting for one more. There's an ambulance waiting.
Whether he was hit anywhere else? Do you know whether he was hit anywhere else but on the hip?
Was the question where was Billy hit?
No, Senator Kennedy.
We got an ambulance waiting for one more. There's an ambulance waiting. Right up front.
Dave, is the senator still there waiting for an ambulance? Can you hear me? Hello, Dave.
There's an
Hello.
Hello, Howard. There's an ambulance coming now for the UAW worker.
And
the UAW official who was injured.
Senator Kennedy has already been taken away, has he?
David, can you hear me? This is Bill Lawrence.
I'm afraid this communication isn't very good.
Yes, Kennedy has been taken away.
Senator, David, what about the report?
Officer,
that
could you tell me where the senator was taken?
Pardon?
Where was Senator Kennedy taken?
I have no idea.
David Jane, can you tell us about the report as to whether or not Steve Smith was also shot?
Senator Kennedy, we understand, has been taken to the Central Receiving Hospital of Los Angeles. The police have said that a suspect has been taken into custody. That is in accord with reports we had earlier that someone was apprehended. Apparently it happened in the kitchen of the ballroom, above the ballroom, a floor above it, when Senator Kennedy was using the kitchen as an exit, and the excitement caused by his coming to the ballroom, then leaving, caused the guards to move away, and people came in and out at will, and apparently someone then came in who fired the shots, who, if these reports are accurate, hit 4 people, an ABC director, a United Automobiles worker official working on Kennedy's staff, Kennedy's brother-in-law, Stephen Smith, his campaign organizer, and Senator Robert Kennedy himself. We have an interview now with a doctor, a videotape recording, and we're going to Los Angeles to hear that interview.
Carl George with ABC. What is your name, sir?
Dr. Abo.
Doctor, what would you say the senator's condition is?
Well, his heart was beating, and he was breathing, and he was conscious.
He was conscious. Did you talk to him?
Yes, I spoke to him.
What did he say?
He was talking to his wife. He was complaining about pain in the back of his head and neck.
Could you see where the bullets entered, or?
No. He was lying prone with his head on somebody's jacket stuffed as a pillow. He wasn't bleeding that much that there was any reason to stop his bleeding. And he seemed to be in fairly good shape as far as his vital signs were concerned.
Could you tell how many bullets he received?
I didn't examine the area that was involved.
To which hospital did you send him?
I don't know which ambulance came.
What is your name again, sir?
Dr. Abo.
And where are you from, Dr. Abel?
Los Angeles.
We just spoke with Dr. Abel, who administered to Senator Kennedy.
We have a report that Senator McCarthy's staff has asked for security guards for him, and at present in his hotel headquarters, the Beverly Hilton Hotel in Los Angeles, police are clearing that ballroom completely. We understand from another report that at least 2 other persons were hit. We've heard at least 3 others. We don't know. We haven't been able to confirm that. The apparent assailant is described by an eyewitness as a man who appeared to be about 25 years old, curly-haired, of Latin appearance. Those are the only reports we have. We wish we could confirm those with absolute certainty. We don't know how many times the senator was hit. We've had a report that he was hit on the side, on the hip. Another report said blood was gushing from his head, but that could very well be wrong. Whenever there's a deep flesh wound that affects a blood vessel, it can smear quite quickly to other parts of the body. Senator Kennedy has been taken to the Central Receiving Hospital in Los Angeles. You've just heard from the doctor who gave him first aid, who treated him at first. We still have no confirmation of any of the others who have been wounded except our own ABC director, Bill Wiesel, who was working on our report from California about the California primaries when Senator Kennedy entered the ballroom to make his victory declaration. The wounds of that our director suffered were not serious. They were superficial wounds, a wound on the hand, but he is apparently in good shape. As we get further information, we'll give it to you. I'll see if we have a bulletin. The scene of the shock and turmoil was nationally televised, for the shooting came just moments after Kennedy had gone on cameras to claim victory in the California primary. A television reporter said the man who fired the shot was about, well, it says here 1 feet from Kennedy. There must be something wrong with that, but in any case, he was very, very close to the senator. The reporter said that Stephen Smith, Kennedy's brother and campaign manager, was also shot. That's the second report of that we've had. And the American Broadcasting Company has announced that its director, working there in the ballroom, Bill Wiesel, was shot, but suffered only minor and superficial injuries. Kennedy was taken to the Los Angeles Central Receiving Hospital. Our own reporter described him as conscious, in pain, but his eyes were open. He appeared to be licking his lips. There was blood on his face and blood on the floor beneath him. As these reports come in, we'll bring you more of them. We are trying very hard to weed out those that may not be true in order not to create a false and extended alarm. We have now an interview with a man named Carl. We have an interview by ABC correspondent Carl George, with whom I don't know, but here he is, a videotape recording of that interview.
This is Carl George and the ambassador. I have Joe LaHive of the senator's staff with me. What happened, Joe, and what you're saying?
Well, I was behind the senator as he was coming out of the auditorium. Rosie Greer and Rayford Johnson and Jesse Unruh were in front. We heard the shots go off and like so many balloons bursting, and then we knew right away there was a scream, and we charged through. The little guy was just backing up into it, and Rosie grabbed him on the shoulder, and I grabbed him on the legs. We threw him up on the tables, and that's about all. And the police came and took him away. We took the gun away from him right there and gave the gun to Rayford Johnson, and the police came and took him away.
Did you get his name?
No, he wouldn't spare a word except ow, 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 and we screaming when we held him. But the fact of the matter, he looked like about 145 pounds. He looked like 5'3", and he looked like a Eurasian or a Filipino or a mulatto to me, of some nature of that nature. And I couldn't describe it any further than that. The excitement was too immense at the moment.
Were you right next to the senator?
I was right behind the senator, probably 3 or 4 people behind him, enough to charge through. And as I passed, the senator was bleeding from the right side of the head, as I could see, staring glassily at the ceiling. And that was it. That was all I could give you.
Did the senator go down?
The senator was down flat and cold, looking, staring at the ceiling, and I didn't think he was conscious. I went by, but there wasn't time to examine him to go after the man. That's all.
The doctor mentioned to me that he did talk to his wife.
Oh, thank God. That's all I can say is thank God that, you know, I saw the other men taken out. I saw the girl as I went by. She seemed to be staggering with a blow on her side, and listen, there's nothing more I can really add, because the senator seemed to be hitting the head to me. It was bleeding from the side of the head, and he didn't look conscious. Actually, the shock probably was immediate when I went by.
Did he fall?
He may have come to a minute afterwards, but we didn't stop to see how he was other than to go after the man.
What's your name, Doctor?
My name is Joe LaHive. I'm not a doctor.
What do you do with the
I'm with the
staff?
Democratic Party in the San Fernando Valley.
How do you spell your last name?
L.A., capital H-I-V-E. And My profession is business.
Were you
I'm a
worried about the
businessman.
senator's security, Joe?
I certainly was worried about the senator's security because I lived every experience of Jack Kennedy. I'm the sculptor that did Jack Kennedy's portrait in bronze, and I love these people. I love this family. I love this country, and I'm frantic with what's happening to us. Guys like Rosie Greer, I couldn't tell anything. Rosie Greer, Rayford Johnson, and a couple of other people were the first on the man. And, of course, everybody didn't care whether they got hit or not. They just wanted. Rosie Greer is an immortal individual.
Joe, did the man run after he fired the shot?
He hardly moved because he was hit immediately. He had no chance, and it looked like a desperation thing to me to begin with.
Could you tell what kind of a gun it was?
Joe, nobody fired at him. The thing we were all screaming is, keep him alive, keep him alive, keep him alive, so we know what's happening with this world.
Was it an automatic weapon, Joe, do you know?
It was a revolver. It was a revolver, a six-shot revolver as far as I can interpret. It looked like a Colt. He found it like all six shots, but somebody tells me afterwards that there was another one. I didn't see any other one. I only saw the one.
Joe, where were the shots fired? In this room?
Straight ahead, right where you're standing as we come through, and another 10 feet forward, that's where the shots hit. And the whole mass of the Kennedy party was coming right through here. We were all following him, and I was right about where I'm standing now, and I was charging through.
Was Speaker Unruh hit? You heard
Speaker Unruh was not hit at all. Speaker Unruh was with me right afterwards on the capture. He came up and took charge of things and was pretty frantic, but he was very distraught and really out of control of anything at the moment. He was helping get the police organized to take out the...
Did you hear the senator say anything when he was shot?
Not a sound. Not one sound. I didn't hear a word.
Did his wife say anything?
I wasn't near his wife. Didn't hear her at all.
But when the senator went down, his wife was near him.
In split seconds, there was no chance to analyze anything more than the fact that the senator was hit. You had to stop whoever was doing it.
How long have you been with the senator in this campaign?
In this campaign, only in the San Fernando Valley since the campaign to California, and I was with him from the day he announced his candidacy.
Why was it the senator? Did you ever talk to him about security at all?
No, I never did. I never had the pleasure of sitting to discuss anything of that nature with the senator. No, my contact with the senator is very superficial. I'm not one of his internal party. I'm just a dedicated Kennedy fan. That's it. I can't say more than that. And I don't think I can add any more.
Thank you,
Please,
Joe.
may I excuse myself? Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
We have a tape recording of the actual time when the shot occurred, when the attempt at the assassination of Senator Robert Kennedy took place. We will now show you that tape recording of that incident in the ballroom of the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles, where Senator Kennedy went tonight in order to make a victory statement. We're having a little trouble with that tape recording, but we'll bring it to you in just a moment. For those viewers who may have just begun watching, let me tell you that Senator Robert Kennedy was shot tonight. He went to the Ambassador Hotel ballroom to speak to his supporters in the California primary campaign and to claim victory and to urge them on to greater efforts. As he left the ballroom, through the kitchen of the ballroom, a shot was heard, and altogether now we understand that 5 people were hit. So far we know of no one killed. Senator Kennedy was approached by a priest who said he gave Senator Kennedy a rosary, and the senator clenched it tightly, and then said the priest was pushed away. There was blood on the senator's head, the priest said. He attempted to give the senator final rights. However, another report indicates that the wife of one of the doctors, 5 doctors dealt with Kennedy, the wife of one of the doctors said that his condition seemed not to be critical. Yeah. We have another eyewitness report of the shooting, a girl in the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles. Here is reporter Carl George again.
This is Carl George, the Ambassador. I have an eyewitness with me. Your name is... What is your name, please?
Valerie Schulte.
And Valerie, what happened? What did you see?
All I saw was about 2 feet behind the senator and off to his right. He stopped to shake hands with some of the waiters that were off to his left.
That's right here in this room.
It was, yes, up about 10 feet from here. And the crowd that was moving with him kept going. He stopped. As he stopped, a man came up from in front of him, or the direction that he was going in.
Like he was facing you?
He was going in this direction, and he stopped, turned this way, and all of a sudden a man came from this direction, and the shots started. They sounded like cap guns. I couldn't tell you what the man looked like, and I ducked and ran.
Did you see the senator fall?
No, I didn't.
Could you describe the man who fired the shots?
No, I couldn't.
You have no description at all?
No, I don't.
Was he a waiter?
I couldn't
Could you
say.
tell me what he was wearing?
I'm sorry, I couldn't tell you at all. I couldn't make any valid judgment.
Good. And your name again is?
Valerie Schulte.
Eyewitness report from the Ambassador Hotel. Valerie Schulte was with the senator, close by his side when it happened. She heard the shots fired, as she said, and then ducked, as she put it, and to the side to get out of the way. She says she did not see the shots fired. All right, now back to News Central.
The young lady who was an eyewitness was unable to describe the man, but we have heard that he weighed about 145 pounds. He was short, about 5 feet 4 inches tall. He was Latin in features, and according to one report, he was standing on a box when he fired the shot at the senator. The gunman was caught standing on some sort of box. Only those near the door knew there was a shooting, and in just a moment we hope to bring you a tape recording of the moment when the shooting took place, and most of the people in the ballroom had no idea it had happened. To repeat what we've reported to you, a man attempted to assassinate Senator Robert Kennedy as he left the ballroom of the Ambassador Hotel, his headquarters in Los Angeles, California, after he had talked to his supporters to make a victory statement and to urge them to go on working for him. On the way out in the kitchen, a man standing on a box fired a revolver. Apparently, he emptied the revolver, 6 shots, and he wounded, apparently, according to reports, 5 people, including the senator. The senator was hit in the hip. We don't know where else. According to one report, a priest attempted to give him final rites, but according to several other reports, he was not in serious condition. Now we go to the tape recording of the moment the senator was shot in Los Angeles. Stand by to listen for the shots now. That was a tape recording of the time the shots were fired. One shot was fired early in that recording, and then about a minute later, 5 more shots were heard. The crowd did not know what was going on. I understand we have another interview with another eyewitness who watched the shooting, and we're going to Los Angeles for an interview with that eyewitness by ABC reporter Carl George.
I'm not a surgeon anyway. I got 2 other
This is Carl George in Los Angeles. I have another eyewitness with me. Your name, sir, is?
Dr. Marcus McBroom.
And what do you do, Dr. McBroom?
I'm a psychologist and marriage counselor.
Where were you when the Kennedy
I was
senator was
about
shot?
5 or 6 people behind him. And he was moving and then stopping. And then suddenly, apparently, if I'm not mistaken, a man who was in a sort of a work shirt, his hair was all tousled. He sort of approached the senator from the front, and he was sort of smiling. And then suddenly, it seemed like there was 1 shot and about 5 shots in quick succession. I do know then the crowd panicked, and I was thrown back into the ball.